Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Programming with a Purpose. Today this video will be a different one in which I am going to discuss some of the architectural patterns that are widely used inside the mobile apps, specifically the iOS ones. So I will be discussing MVC and MVVM. What are these? What are the strengths and weaknesses of both of these architectures, and how I am using them across all of my projects that I am sharing here with my YouTube community. So let's start the discussion. So here is basically an animation of MVC. So we have a model layer, a view layer, and a controller layer. The model notifies of all the changes inside the data to controller, and the controller in return updates the model. Same is the cycle that happens between a view and a controller, that a view, whatever changes we make as a user to the view are then notified to the controller, and the controller updates the view. Now in conceptual form, the layers are pretty much segregated and each layer has its own functionality or logic to handle. But in real world scenario, the controller and view are closely coupled due to the nature or basically the type of frameworks or the type of environment that is provided by the mobile applications, that the view and controller have a lot of overlapped code. So a view logic is inside the controller and the controller logic is inside the view. So the first architecture is MVC or Model View Controller. It is recommended by Apple, and you can see on their website the different type of projects and code that are available mostly use MVC. But the issue is basically with the view controller code, and the view controller and view are basically two different entities. View deals with the UI and view controller is basically the logic that connects model with view. All of the data processing and all of these functions are handled by view controller. So but the issue with MVC is that view controller and view are very closely coupled due to the lifecycle methods like view did load, etc., that we use to call different of the view states, and we update them inside the view controller. That makes the code of the view and view controller to overlap, and in return the code becomes quite long inside the view controllers, and whenever we are going to try to make new changes to them, it will become a hassle to add new changes to it. But it is good for small scale projects because it do not require a lot of maintenance and a lot of pre-planning before creating a project. So for small scale projects it's great, you can use MVC, but for larger scale projects it is going to create a lot of issues and a lot of overlapped code. So for that purpose you can switch to other models just like MVVM. So here I'm going to show you what MVC exactly is. The other model that I'm going to discuss here is basically MVVM, which is model view model. So basically whatever is handled inside the view and view controller is part of the view in MVVM. The model is just like the model inside an MVC, with this functionality that the model is basically just a dumb entity handling the data. In fact, not even handling the data or the struct or the physical data, the core data is just present inside the model. All of the manipulation is done by view model, and all of the changes inside the view are propagated to the view model, and view model updates the view according to the requests made by the users. So basically we have another layer in addition to the model view controller, that is the view model. It is basically required, this architecture is quite good, and it is basically used in small to middle level projects. So it requires a lot of maintenance and a lot of code like code management. So if you are using it for a personal level project or a very small project, do not use MVVM, or you can basically overlap these two models, MVC and MVVM, depending upon your needs. So basically all the presentation and business logic will be handled by view model. API calls, all of the data from remote locations or from local locations is handled by your view model. It is going to present that data inside the model, and then model is going to update itself. All of the variables and functions that can affect the view from the models and from the outside world will be passed here inside the view model. So the issues are the same: maintenance of a lot of code inside the controller, which is the issue with MVC as well. And it is a complicated architecture to handle for small scale projects. So basically people think that simple UIs of MVVM architecture can be an overkill. Now there are other models as well on the top of MVVM that offer further layers to basically your view model. You can split it into other layers, and you can basically, the communication and coordination can be handled by other patterns such as a coordinate pattern. You can also use MVVMs, in which the API calls and all the data servicing is done inside the service layer, in addition to the model view and view model layers. And then there are other advanced architectures such as Viper, which do not you do not encounter all of these issues of these architectures inside it, but then it is again a complicated one to handle. So basically, before selecting an architecture, you do not need to see which is a good one or a bad one, because it totally depends upon your need. So every pattern is good, just depending upon its use. So if a project is a small scale one, you can use MVC. If it is a middle level project, you can use MVVM. Even for larger scale projects, you can use MVVM, but it does has its shortcomings. And basically it all depends upon your need and the need of the project. That will help you determine which of the architecture is the best that can be used, because simple architectures also decreases your time of development. So sometimes the time to market, or basically uploading an app on App Store in a short span of time, is not possible with the complicated architectures. So these are all of the things that need to be considered before selecting an architecture and how to follow it. Now I'm going to show you some of the codes that I have written for different tutorials here, and I'm going to show you how I have used these architectures inside those projects. So here I am playing the project HealthKit app, and as you can see that I have created a folder with the name of models. So this workout is a simple model that contains the data. Workout items is basically my view model that is going to basically handle an aggregation of the workout items. All of the workouts will be here, and their different functions. And then workout cell, it is again a view. So workout cell will be a view. Content view is a view which handles, apart from that, all of the read and write and authorization functions. All of these will be handled by the content view. Line graph view is again a view, and notification handler basically is a view model. So basically it handles all of the functions that are required for the notifications to work, or an independent class. So you can see that these are the different layers that I have used inside my HealthKit app. So these layers are not like properly, you cannot draw lines between them that this file just corresponds to a view or a view model, but it's good if you are able to segregate the code depending upon its functionality inside the layering architecture into different files. But my files are basically like composed of two layers in some cases. So basically we have the view, we have the model, and we have the view model. So it is following the MVVM architecture here. But it is a small scale app. You cannot really see that the power of MVVM inside a small scale project. So this is all for the HealthKit app. The next app that I'm going to play here is basically a MapKit app, which is basically used to show a route between a source and destination. So this is a location cell. It is a simple model which corresponds to a view as well, because it displays that location cell inside your view. So view controller is basically a normal view controller that corresponds to all of the lifecycle methods. Apart from that, it is going to display the search results inside the table view. Location search controller and search bar controller are basically the two controllers. Mostly they corresponds to the view or the view model. So here search bar controller here corresponds to the view, and location search controller corresponds to the view model. So basically it is updating the view according to the data that is provided by the user. So it is the view model. So here I am again using MVVM. But again, the files are not segregated properly into each of these layers, so the code can overlap. There might be view model and view inside a single class file or a single controller file. So this is all for the usage of MVVM inside my MapKit app. So MapKit app is built on UIKit, and the other HealthKit app is basically built in SwiftUI. So you can see that both of these technologies support MVVM. So this is all for this video. I hope you have learned something from it. You are able to distinguish between the different important architectures that are being used inside the iOS apps for a long time, and also how I am going to use it. I am going to create some of the projects in future so that it is easier for you to see the different layers, because in the codes I have just shown you, the layers are pretty much dissolved. The boundary is not that clear. So to just show you properly how the layers are done or how a large scale project should be organized, I am going to create some of the projects in future and show you how different architectures are implemented there. It will be easier to understand if they are segregated into proper folders and proper files. So this is all. Do give me the feedback of how you liked this type of videos in which I am going to discuss the general perspective or the general things related to coding and architectures inside iOS. And do not forget to like and share this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.